This edition of The Local Live is brought to you by BizG87, an art gallery and space in Larchmont for artists and entrepreneurs.
Tonight on The Local Live, the Mamaroneck School Board gets heat over handling of racism complaints. Find out what Mamaroneck Village Recreation has in store. An executive order makes vital county documents available in 9 languages. And on tonight's roundtable, learn about the Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission. Good evening, it's Thursday, March 7th. I'm Alexandra Garcia and welcome to The Local Live. Larchmont Village elections are Tuesday, March 19th. 2 board members and a village justice are running for re-election unopposed. The candidates will meet with the public on Tuesday, March 12th from 9 to 11 a.m. at Ore Gourmet for conversation, coffee, and some breakfast treats. There are now 6 sites secured for the Mamaroneck Historical Murals Project. Funding is complete for 5 murals, but the project is seeking additional donations for 3 more. The kickoff event for the murals will be on Saturday, April 20th. For more information on donations and sponsorships, you can email muralsvom@gmail.com. You can learn more about the project by visiting the Mamaroneck Historical Society website. At a meeting last week, the Mamaroneck School Board heard public comments before announcing they will address alleged cases of racism in the district and work with an outside party to improve diversity in the 6 schools.
Bullying is not necessarily something that is a disruptive, angry thing that should be there, but bullying behavior defines children. It defines how a child sees themselves in the world. If you do not work on this and figure out policies on how these things can be handled. Now, I am not saying to take a child and demean a child because of the behavior that's occurring, but you have to figure out policies on how to work with children, with parents, with administration.
We have a daughter in the 5th grade at Central School. It's been a horrific year for us. She has dealt with 7 instances of bullying between the beginning of 2018 and now, 3 of which have been physical. She's been shoved down the steps and laughed at. The school decided it wasn't relevant, that it was an accident, even though the boy admitted that he did it. The same boy later concussed her. We spent much of December dealing with a child who was concussed. There's been no empathy from the school system. I've been yelled at by administrators to the highest level. I've been threatened by administrators at the highest level. My daughter has been threatened by administrators at the highest level. This is a bright, motivated child. She is now terrified to go to school because not only does she have to face the children who've bullied her, physically bullied her, but she knows she has no support. And no child should have to live through that.
To watch this and other school board meetings, please visit lmctv.org/videos. Fare hikes are coming in the next 2 months for bridges, tunnels, and trains operated by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Local commuters will see a 3.85% increase in weekly and monthly Metro North tickets. One-way and round-trip ticket prices will rise by 4 to 6%. Tolls for Easy Pass drivers will rise 6%. Those without passes will see increases as high as 11.8%. The New York State Senate Majority Conference will hold its 3rd public hearing tomorrow, Friday, March 8th, at White Plains City Hall starting at 10 a.m. This hearing will focus on the Metro North Railroad. A case of measles was reported in Westchester County on March 1st. According to the County Department of Health, a Monroe College student who was later diagnosed with measles had been at the College of New Rochelle last week. If you believe you may have come in contact with the disease, county clinics in White Plains and Yonkers are offering MMR vaccines for college students, the uninsured or underinsured. George Latimer signed an executive order requiring vital county documents to be made available in several languages spoken across Westchester.
Basically, this activity today is to sign an executive order that is binding on all departments of the county government with a couple of exceptions. Just governmentally, the Board of Legislators, the Board of Elections, the District Attorney, and the County Clerk operate outside of the direct authority of the county executive. So any executive order we do will apply to all of the operating departments. So this applies to the Department of Health, the Department of Social Services, the Department of Mental Health, Parks and Recreations, and so forth. And I think David and Damon has the power to do this for the Board of Legislators too, so we'll get another one of the departments in. What this says, very simply, this language access executive order, put together with the assistance of all of these advocates helping us get it, hopefully we think just right, is that documents will be made available in prominent languages so that people whose primary language is either Spanish, Italian, Chinese, French, including Haitian Creole, Arabic, Tagalog, Japanese or Albanian, any of the 6 most common top 5 languages spoken in Westchester County, that they will find that documents will be available for whatever they might apply for in that natural language, in their native language, as well as in English. And this is dated today is the 5th of March?
Yes.
March 5th, 2019, and I'm signing it, George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is now in force.
The executive order recognizes shifting demographics and aims to eliminate hurdles to accessing important government programs. And on tonight's roundtable, Maura Carlin will discuss the Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission in the village of Mamaroneck.
Hello, I'm Maura Carlin. Welcome to the roundtable. Tonight I'm joined by Tony Gelber, the chair of the Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission in the village of Mamaroneck, and by Jennifer Bienstock-Cohn, the vice chair also of the HCZMC, as it's often known as. You, of course, can always join our conversation. The ways you can contact us live is on your screen right now, so I hope you will join us. So my first question is, what does the HCZMC, or the Harbor Coastal Zone Management Commission, do? And what is it?
Well, thank you for inviting us. We're pleased to be here. And the Harbor Coastal Zone Management Commission, basically we administer what's called the LWRP, the Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan, which is, although it's called a plan, it's law in Mamaroneck, and it deals with the management of our coastal and riverine waters.
So you deal with the sound, basically, or where the sound meets the rivers?
Our LWRP is unusual in the state of New York in that it deals with the entire village property, because the rivers that run through the property, that whole watershed, the Mamaroneck River, the Sheldrake, and the Blind Brook, that whole watershed is part of our LWRP because all those waters drain into Long Island Sound. And so these LWRPs are based on, in our community, all the waters that drain into Long Island Sound. So the rivers and the Long Island Sound.
So given that that's the area you deal with, what is it you do with respect to, is it development, is it use, is it, you can water ski here and sail there, or?
Jen, why don't you?
Okay, so half the area of the village of Mamaroneck is actually water. And so our local waterfront revitalization program it has 44 policies, and the plan for revitalization and use of the property it involves every aspect of what goes on in the village of Mamaroneck, from building to redevelopment to construction to renovations to anything that would have any kind of impact on our local waters.
So do you get involved with things like the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club proposal, or the Hampshire proposal, or where somebody has a house on the water and they want to divide the land and make 4 houses in that location?
Absolutely. So anytime a project like that would come, it would come before Planning Board initially of the village of Mamaroneck, and then would come before Harbor Coast and Zone Commission in order to make sure that whatever they're planning is consistent with our local waterfront revitalization program. And those policies cover protection of wildlife, of natural resources, of the fish and wildlife habitats, to make sure that any planned program, any planned development or redevelopment is consistent to not create flooding issues. And in the Village of Mamaroneck, I think we're all very familiar with the fact that we have several flooding issues, and we are trying as a commission and within the village to alleviate as much as possible any further flooding.
So how can your commission prevent further flooding? I mean, are you trying to encourage water from the rivers, let's say, to go into the sound, or to prevent the sound from overflowing during a big storm? I mean, can you give some examples of what that means?
Well,
That's a great question, by the way.
Right, and so pretty much what we deal with is that when an applicant comes before us, an applicant is usually doing either a renovation or a new construction. And when we look at those properties, we generally look at them from a point of view of stormwater and sanitary, right? And so with stormwater, what we try to do is see if we can maintain as much of the water on the property as possible. And that's by, we call them kind of green infrastructure techniques. The code pretty much calls it permeable surfaces.
So you're trying to keep the water on the property and not flowing into the sound?
Right, so
Exactly.
right, so it's called retention or detention, right? So retention, you get retained. Detention is it's kept on the property forever. So either we hold it until the storm kind of abates, and then it kind of manages the flow coming off the property, or we try to keep it on the property by letting it percolate into the ground or into what we are these. They have these tanks that they use that keep the water on the property. So that's one of the techniques.
And we want to prevent overbuilding of the properties in order to limit impervious surfaces. We want to make sure that if someone is developing a property, that proper techniques and best practices are used to prevent impervious surfaces that would allow the water to run off the property and potentially flood somebody else's property.
So do you get involved in setting what should be the FAR? I forget what it stands for.
FAR, Florida Area Ratio.
Right, because if you're creating impervious surfaces by building up, or by putting in a pool, or by creating a patio, do you get involved at that level?
That's more a zoning issue. The ZBA is responsible for FAR. We definitely are interested in pervious surfaces and impervious surfaces, but we really prefer to allow the zoning board to do their job, and we try to stay in our lane. They stay in their lane, planning board stays in their lane. We try to work together by each of us, each board, each commission staying within our own lanes, and that creates a better working environment for the entire village.
Go ahead, Tony.
Another aspect of kind of water control is what's called wetlands or wetland buffers, right?
And there's a lot of wetlands by Hampshire.
Right, there's
A lot of wetlands all over the village.
Right, absolutely. There's a lot of, and there's tidal wetlands, which means it's sound, or non-tidal, freshwater wetlands, right? And both of those, the regulations are fairly strict that you need to protect the wetlands to the maximum extent practicable and possible. And so, again, the idea was that a wetland can absorb water. So this keeping the water on the property is key to reducing flooding.
We have actually, we're going to wrap up this segment and come back in a moment. Stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Okay.
Do you need space for a meeting, conference, or presentation? LMC TV has what you need. Our 768 square foot studio space is ideal for many types of productions, readings, recitals, rehearsals, and workshops. The space has video recording capability, as well as daylight temperature lighting, green screen, and stage. 2 additional rooms at 208 and 156 square feet can be used for any of your needs. Auditions, meetings, classes, workshops, one-on-one instructions, and more. Both rooms feature video monitors with Chromecasting capability, making presentations a breeze. To reserve one or more of our spaces,
contact us at reserve@lmctv.org.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Tony Gelber and to Jennifer Bienstock-Kohn, who are on the Harbor Coastal Zone Management Commission. And we're going to talk about what you referred to as the LWRP, the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, which I understand it is also is 1984?
Yes.
Is that right?
Right.
So you said that, if I understood correctly, there are 44 principles or policies that you need to apply. How do you raised something towards the end that which was to protect and preserve. That's kind of broad. Is it really subject to interpretation?
Well, the 44 policies, several of them are based in a state coastal plan that then got passed down to villages and towns. And of those 44 policies that the state has, we have about 40 that are active in our LWRP. Each one of them has the statement of the policy and an explanation of how it should be applied. And so that helps with the principle. But the policies, and I'll give you just an example, Policy 23 is protect and preserve resources, and it means historic resources, scenic resources, natural resources. And then part of the plan is documents and bodies of water that need to be protected. And so as you look at this protection, it's fairly specific. And Jen and I are trying to administer this law kind of the way it was written and the intent. And for example, any property that's over 50 years old, if it's eligible to be on the State Historic Preservation Register or the National Register, really needs to be protected. And that's very specific in these policies. Another part of that historic policies, if a property is within 500 feet of the boundary of an existing historic property, it needs to be protected and preserved. So although there is quite a bit of interpretation, there's also very specific information in this plan that, as I said, we're trying to administer it within the guidelines of the plan.
You know, in the past, my understanding is there have been controversies or controversial decisions made by the commission. If the policies are set and explained, why do you think that was, or why is it not the case now?
Well, go ahead.
A lot of times people will purchase a property on the waterfront, and they want to build a structure that they don't realize is within a wetlands buffer, or sometimes even within the wetlands. And although in the past, in the distant past, that type of development, construction might have been allowed, we tried to develop another way of allowing them to improve their property without negatively affecting or adversely impacting the wetlands.
So you see yourself as working with people to find a solution as opposed to
Absolutely.
saying no?
It is our goal and our job to work with people and help people understand and develop their properties to the best extent possible for both themselves and the village.
Right.
John, I just want to interrupt because John on Facebook has a question for you. Are there any plans to address the new bench pond at the West Basin? I'm not familiar with that area, so I will leave it to you to tell us where he's talking about. The bench pond at the West Basin.
Well, I think,
It's not currently before us.
Okay.
And so when and if an application does come before us, it would absolutely be relevant and would be considered under the 44 policies of the LWRP.
For me and for other people watching, where is this?
well, the West Basin, as you know, if you're standing on Boston Road and looking out, the basin to the right is the West Basin. And so
Okay.
that's the basin closest to, it's not Rushmore, it's Orienta.
Orienta.
Right? That's the West Basin. So right now, as Jen said, we don't have an application before us, and neither one of us are aware of that particular property, which we probably, if it was before us, we couldn't discuss it. But I just wanted to go back to a minute to say that we are trying to work with people, and the goal of this LWRP is to advance the 44 policies, right? And so we're not supposed to diminish one policy and promote another policy. So it's supposed to be moving all 40, in our case, about 40 policies forward for this protection, preservation, and development of local waterfront redevelopment program. And so part of this whole LWRP was the redevelopment of declining marine. Like we have a very unusual harbor, right? We have marine industry in Mamaroneck, right? We have Director's Boatyard, we have all of our other boatyards. Director builds ships. It's just so unique. And that this unique quality and our scenic quality, we have so many great resources. And our role as administrators is try to enhance and promote these policies, to protect and enhance those policies, both for the public and private.
Does the entire village of Mamaroneck fall within your commission?
Basically.
Yes.
Pretty much all of it?
Yes.
So the LWRP is almost 35 years old. Is there talk about taking another look at it?
Yes, there is. And in fact,
Yes.
and Jen and I pretty much, we've been on the board, on the commission for about a year. We're new champions of it. But there is a draft revision in the works, which we haven't been asked to review yet. I have a copy on my shelf of binders, which I haven't read yet. But yes, it is, and documents, as you know, need to kind of be living documents. And so, we would be happy to look at what's coming down the road. And I think that in general, some of the laws at least that are passed will come before us for what we call this consistency review.
We're going to come back to that in a moment. We're going to take a very quick break. You can all get a snack and come on back, and we're going to continue our discussion about the LWRP and the HCZMC. Stay with us.
LMC TV Media Center is the spot for your next party. Lights, camera, liftoff. The possibilities are endless. Space adventures, video gaming, whatever they imagine, LMC can achieve. Kids of all ages have fun making their own videos in our professional TV studio. LMC TV is the perfect spot for your creative kid to celebrate with friends and make a memory that will last forever in video. Party themes can range depending on their desire. Fun news shows, music videos, stop motion, overall silliness, our cameras can capture it all. Contact us to book a party today.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back. We're talking water. Actually, I'm just going to shorten it. So you're talking about dealing with the coastline and the LWRP, looking at where it stands today versus the uses and the things to preserve. Have things changed in the last 35 years?
Well, things have changed, but I think the basic need for this preservation of resources in Mamaroneck has not changed. And if you look at the resources, again, historic, scenic, natural resources, this wonderful shoreline and rivers that we have, the protection of those hasn't changed. What has changed, I think, is the amount and nature of development, right? And so we had a lot of
ever-increasing density.
right, ever-increasing density and development, and sometimes that's at the expense of nature, as we all know. And so this trying to balance these needs of what do we need to preserve to keep our community beautiful and wonderful and still help people with their properties and their development is a balancing act. And I think, you know, this LWP is designed to just try to promote them all, and then if we get a revision, we'll see if that revision looks consistent with what the original intent was and the current status of affairs.
You said if you get a revision, who would be giving you a revision?
Well, at the moment, I'm pretty sure there's a revision document. So the whole village is going through a comprehensive planning
You
exercise.
mean as part of the master plan?
Right. Well, I
Master
think
plan
this
unit.
LWRP revision started a little bit different to that, but it may be wrapped into that process at the moment. I'm not sure about that, honestly, so I can't say that. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Are there particular things that you would not allow to be done in the village?
Well, I think there are a number of things that you could not do. You could not build in the middle of Van Amridge Pond. You could.
Okay.
You would not be permitted to extend a dock far out into the harbor. There are certain dredging guidelines. There are. You would not be able to dump your stormwater or groundwater on someone else's, or stormwater on someone else's property. You would not be able to cover an entire lot with impervious material.
That those things that actually come up as proposals?
They used to, not so much anymore, because I think builders, developers, private homeowners are doing an excellent job of really caring for the village and the careful and considerate development of the village. So I think everyone really is doing a very good job. And I also think that our building department does an excellent job of working with applicants to go through applications and make sure that they are filling out the forms properly, and then they come to us, and then we tell them what else we could potentially need, and it's a back and forth process until the project is where we want to see it.
Is it more of a discussion than a
very much so.
Yes or no?
Absolutely,
Right.
it is very much a discussion.
It's a very iterative process, and I think sometimes applicants don't realize that, and that one of the reasons we wanted to come here tonight, and thank you for letting us come, is that this whole process is pretty complicated. If you look at this document, it's a thick document, but people who think they can come in and it's going to be, yes, it's going to get stamped, yes, or it doesn't really happen, because there are 4 or 5 other commissioners besides Jen and myself, and there's lots of smart people in our village who send us comments and letters also. And so this iterative process, as Jen says, it helps get the best product at the end of the day for both the private person and the preservation of the public resources that we have.
Are there other boards or commissions that you really coordinate with?
We definitely try to coordinate with all of the other land use boards. We all, as I said before, we do try to stay in our own lane, but any project will come to the planning board first, and then it will come to us for specific consistency or inconsistency finding.
Are there any other matters that your commission gets involved in?
Well, we kind of get involved in a very broad amount of issues, and one thing that comes to mind is last summer, I guess it was, there was a citizen complaint about mosquitoes.
Yes.
And mosquito spraying, right? And being that this...
Or lack thereof?
Right.
Right, or lack thereof, correct.
And how to properly...
And how to, what was consistent with this LWRP. And when we looked at that particular, it was really a complaint, it was, okay, we had, there were things the Western County was supposed to be doing, and then there were things the village was doing, and it was a bit, left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing to a bit. And so just the fact that it came before us and it got discussed among the commissioners, and then again, an iterative process, it went back and the village manager had to look up some stuff and they called the county. So that process to me makes, at the end of the day, a better community.
And did you get involved because whatever was going into the community would likely end up in the water?
Oh, it absolutely would.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely would. And we absolutely welcome residents, village residents, to come to our meetings. If they have a particular issue, please bring it before us. We are very interested in hearing any concerns, and we'll do our best to resolve those concerns.
You two have talked about how well you seem to be working together and enjoying it. But what made you decide to volunteer to be on this board together? And you were just appointed chair, and I think you're vice chair, which has to take up a lot of time.
Yes, it does.
Right, yeah. So I was not appointed chair, right?
Okay.
So the way this committee works is
Right, we elected him.
right,
The commission elected him.
right, and then I nominated Jen, and the commission elected Jen as vice chair.
But you were appointed to the commission.
Yes.
Right. I was asked by the current mayor a year ago to join the committee, and I don't know how.
Right.
Right, but if we could just go back for a second. One of the other things that we're supposed to do, and which we do, is that, and Jen used a good word yesterday when we were discussing a matter, there's other state agencies, the Department of State, and there's the Department of Environmental Conservation. So if there's an Army Corps, a federal permit required, which when you do any work in these tidal wetlands, sometimes an Army Corps permit is required. So if an Army Corps permit is required, the Department of State does consistency from the state level RE the Army Corps permit, right? So this coordination of efforts between kind of the federal government through the state, and then the New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, they look at wetlands, and they have a whole bunch of, and they have to issue wetlands permits. So this coordination between the village and the state and kind of the Army, all supposed to work together. And so we get asked to send comments back to those agencies. Now, in general, when you look at these laws, many times the federal law is the weakest, the state is a little more stringent, and then local laws are even more stringent. And so I work in Brooklyn, which is New York City, and what we find there is that many times New York City laws are more stringent than any place else in the country. So in our community, this similar structure exists, and so we have to look at this at LWRP and then see if the action is consistent with our policy. So that whole coordination effort is time-consuming, as you kind of mentioned a minute ago.
Okay, we're actually out of time because we've covered a lot of water
Yes.
instead of ground.
Oh,
Thank you,
clever.
Tony. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for watching. But you should stay tuned. We've got more of the local live stories coming up.
Do you have a great idea for a YouTube video or a short film, but don't know how to make it happen? LMC TV has what you need. Our equipment cage is stocked with professional quality cameras, tripods, lighting, sound, cabling, and more. Our 768 square foot studio features a full lighting grid, wraparound green screen, teleprompter, TriCaster, and high-definition cameras. To reserve equipment,
contact us at reserve@lmctv.org.
The Village of Mamaroneck Recreation Department has a great way to keep your kids busy for 6 weeks this summer.
Hi, I'm Jason Pinto. I'm from the Village of Mamaroneck Recreation Department.
and I'm here to talk about our summer day camp program. Our day camp runs from ages 4 years old all the way up to 9th graders. Please register the grade they're going to fall of 2019. June 27th to August 9th, no camp on July 4th or 5th. Registration is now open for residents. Registration for non-residents opens on March 11th. We have a really successful day camp program that works. So we try not to reinvent the wheel every year. We try to keep our very similar activities and schedules, and we do change our trips. We do change our special events. So those things are kind of unique. Every year we try to add in a new trip, keeping the ones that were very popular from the years past. So yeah, we're always looking to tweak, but our main program is awesome. Because we're in a beautiful Harbor Island Park, we have our beach, our Stephen E. Johnson Beach. So we have kayaking available to all our campers. We have paddle boarding. We have fishing. We have all the sand where especially the younger kids are able to play, and as well as our spray ground, which is really nice that we have that beach element that most camps don't have. Okay, so I would just like to get everyone out to register. If you have any questions, please call the Recreation Department or send us an email. We're very happy to help anyone, and we're looking forward to having a great summer. So, thank you.
Here's what's happening around town. Enjoy a unique exhibition this Saturday, March 9th, as artist Margaret Neal will present her first solo masterpieces at Larchmont's Canice Barnes Fine Art Gallery. The exhibition Wavelength will be presented starting at 10 a.m. Join the St. Thomas Episcopal Church as they host their monthly community dinner this Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Dinner is free and everyone is welcome. Larchmont Mayor Lorraine Walsh and Mamaroneck Village Mayor Tom Murphy will join other local leaders to address baby boomers and seniors in the community. During this panel, officials will discuss how our community can best serve the needs of the senior residents. This event will be hosted at the Larchmont Public Library starting at 1:30 p.m. Enjoy an evening with a lively jazz band. Guest singers Louis Veneria and Joanne Roberts will be performing at Madison Kitchen in Larchmont on Monday night at 7 p.m. The town of Mamaroneck and the village of Larchmont would like to send out a friendly reminder to not include plastic bags with recycling. Your recycling will not be picked up if it is stored this way. Containers can be purchased at the Maxwell Avenue Recycling Center to dispose of your plastics. Thank you for your cooperation.
LMC Cast. The whole system is fine. All right, cool. I definitely would recommend doing podcasts if you are someone that likes to get something off the chest, or you want to just talk about anything in the world that just might interest you. Podcast here at LMC TV is amazing.
I hope you're listening out there.
LMC TV would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMC TV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it's complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
Do you have a news tip? Seen anything interesting around town? Is there breaking news in your community? Send your videos, comments, pictures, and tips to the Local Live, your news source of Larchmont and Mamaroneck.
Remember, if you missed Thursday's live broadcast, you can catch replays of the Local Live twice a day on this channel and find story clips on our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook to stay up to date on things you may have missed. This Sunday will be daylight savings, so don't forget to set your clocks forward. Thank you for watching the Local Live. I'm Alexandra Garcia. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll be trying something different. Have a good night.
This edition of The Local Live is brought to you by BizG87, an art gallery and space in Larchmont for artists and entrepreneurs. If you are interested in sponsoring this or other programs on LMC TV, contact us for more information.